Hey, everybody. Welcome to Open the Gates. I'm your host, Matt Burke, and tonight we're going to be having on Joe Sontag. He's going to be talking about his awesome fucking metal book, Reaper Destroyer. If you guys want, you could check out the link on the top, and it'll take you right to his campaign. And if you give a warm welcome to Joe, that would be awesome. What's up, Joe, man? How's it been?
What's going on, man? What's going on? Good to be here. Excited for tonight.
Oh, fuck yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's been how's the weather out there? You're over in like the Midwest, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Over in Michigan, we were actually supposed to be hit by this massive storm today. Like everybody was talking about 14 inches and 45-mile-an-hour winds and all this kind of stuff, and it really turned out to be like 2 inches. You know, it wasn't bad at all. But
yeah, right.
It didn't stop everybody from going and doing all the panic buying at the stores.
Oh, yeah.
They're just rushed out. Like people are like, yo, look, you live in Michigan. We get snow every year.
Yeah.
You can deal with it, you know, even if it's a massive, it's just ridiculous. But yeah.
That's crazy. My my dad's side, that's where they're all from. Like my grandpa and my grandma. They're all from I think Dearborn.
Okay, yeah.
And, yeah. That's I've never been there, but yeah, I'd like to check it out someday.
It's nice, you know.
Nice,
I mean,
yeah.
It's the only state I've ever lived in. I've been in a ton of different states, you know, touring with the band and everything. But I definitely do love Michigan. There's only a few things I dislike about it. Winter is one of them. You know, after I stopped being a kid, and I don't do winter sports, so it was kind of like I have no use for snow or cold.
Yeah, right.
You know, so if I can get through those few months and get back to spring and summer, I'm pretty good on that.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, what's up, Corey? Thanks for stopping by,
Corey.
brother.
Good to see you, brother.
My best friend Dave, he's a guitar player. I've been in a bunch of bands with him. He lives in South Carolina, and he says it's pretty different out there than it is because he's from out here, Long Beach, California.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
a big change. But he bought a house out there, and he's doing stuff. And yeah, man, I'd like to get out of here. It'd be kind of cool. Maybe moved. I was talking to him about Wyoming. I just got off the phone with him. Like, damn, that place. I don't know if you watched that show Longmire, but they got some
Wyoming is wide open, man. Wide open. I played only one show I ever played in Wyoming, and it was on a Indian reservation, which was pretty interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool. You know, it's just like this small kind of town on a reservation, and the guy that booked us was an Indian. He was freaking like 6'5", and he was a cool dude. He had a metal band,
Yeah,
we were touring through, and he was hit me up. He's like, yeah, like let's do a show together. So we get out there like on a Friday night, and it's kind of funny because like everybody gets paid on Friday night or whatever, and they all just go out and drink at the bar. So the bar was packed, and you just got like a bunch of people, a bunch of Indians and stuff. And you're just metal, it's you wouldn't think it, right? But it was cool. It was fun.
Makes sense. I think it kind of makes sense though. Like their shit's pretty metal too. Like some of like their, I don't know, some of their stuff, the Firebirds and the fucking their mythology.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about that, but no, it was a cool experience. I had to save my our bus driver from getting beat up by this big old Indian dude. He must have been like, again, they were all huge. Like that was the thing that just blew me away. Like 6'5", 6'6", and this guy thought he was hitting on his woman. And he probably was because our drummer or our bus driver, as much as I love the dude, he was kind of a dumbass. And he was kind of one of those guys like, I'm with the band, kind of thing. Like, no, dude, you're the driver. Chill out. Like stop walking around and trying to pick up chicks. You're the driver of the bus. And he must have been talking. And this dude was pissed, man. I mean, he was like talking all this shit. And I was like, dude, don't get us killed out here in Wyoming in the middle of a reservation. All right. I was like, chill the fuck out. Go back to the bus. I was like talking to the guy. I was like, dude, he's an idiot. Just don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Forget.
Yeah, like let's just go back inside. Let's have a drink. Good stuff.
Have you been listening to any new music lately?
New music? Not too much. Just mostly because I'm just so damn busy that I've lost track of a lot.
Yeah, me too, man.
Metal. I've lost track of the metal scene. After I got out of doing music, I kind of took a break from metal for a while because it just consumed my life for a decade, and I started kind of getting 100%. A little bit more mellow, what I'm saying? The older I got, the less angry I got, and so I started enjoying some other styles of music. My daughter and my wife are really big into country, which I always hated, but the newer kind of rock country that they've got coming out now, I've kind of been getting into. So
Yeah.
I've been digging that. The new Avenged Sevenfold album came out and was weird as hell. I kind of dug it, but you know, some people were torn either way on it.
I haven't heard that
Yeah,
yet.
it's all right.
Oh
It's
yeah,
all right.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind
I
of,
think I can remember it was kind of rock, like a little rocky kind of, right?
yeah, it's a little rocky. It's a
More
little
rock.
proggy. You know, it's something different than what they've done, and I got to applaud them for trying to do something, you know, different. Which is fine. I mean, bands have to evolve over time. It wasn't my favorite, I'll say that, you know, but there was some good stuff on it. Uh, yeah, but that's probably about it as far as new music goes. I'm still kind of stuck in the stuff that I grew up on. I still love
Me too.
90s metal, 90s punk, 90s, you know, the alternative, early 90s alternative with the Seattle scene and all that stuff going on. New
Yeah,
metal, so some of the new metal stuff that happened in the late 90s, you know, I still listen to a lot of that stuff.
I listen to a lot of that too, like in a lot of like the the early aughts. Like there was a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of fucking like just dope ass like metal coming out of like Scandinavia and shit, and like just the whole like Boston like metalcore scene. There was a couple of really cool bands out of there too. I liked a lot of. But I just
Well, I mean,
listen to a lot of shit, dude. That's just, you know, I was with my buddies because I work with two of my high school homeboys, you know, and
yeah.
we've known each other since fucking 10th grade, right? So we
Nice.
were like,
Nice.
I like look down the hall and he's fucking bumping some like Scar Symmetry, like I'm like, what the fuck? Like it's all loud, just screaming, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah! I'm like, stick my head out the door and I run away.
Yeah.
But it was just like because I haven't heard anything. Like now, a big celebrity like metalhead is Ivan the Terrible from Slaughter to Prevail, the Russian dude.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like what's going on all the time now, you know. And it was cool to see like or to hear some older shit, you know. I don't know. It's not that old, but it kind of is, you know.
No, I mean, it's when you think about it, it's 30 years old now.
Yeah.
You know, depending on what year, you know,
Yeah.
like the older we get, the older I realize, you know, just like how far back the music goes. Cause it seems like yesterday to me.
Yeah. It's
And
like,
you know,
that was a year, but what happened?
I know. And I talk about it all the
years.
I talk about it all the time, you know, like I'm big into the 90s because I grew up in the 90s. I was a teenager in the 90s, you know, not just in comics. 90s were great for comics, but they're great all around. They're great for movies. They're great for the music scene. And I feel like a lot of that stuff still holds up today. So, I mean, I can listen to some Pantera from the 90s.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And I feel like it absolutely holds up to the music to today, you know, and I can listen to like, you know, early Lamb of God from early 2000s and it still holds up, you know, like, so I don't feel like it's that old as far as the songwriting, the technology that was used, the tones, the riff writing, you know, like all that kind of stuff. It's in some ways better than the shit I hear today. And that makes me sound old and I hate it, but it's the truth.
It's just a fact. I agree with you too. I feel like kind of music died. I always say like, I think music died like in the early aughts.
Oh, it did.
And then kind of like roboticism or robotics kind of came in and AI and whatnot came in with music.
Yeah.
Dude, and they took over that. Now I got a TikTok now and I hear fucking they have Hetfield singing "Hit Me Baby One More Time" like an AI voice of him singing.
Oh, with the AI shit, yeah.
Sounds exactly like him. Then they got fucking Ozzy singing "Sad But True." It's an AI Ozzy singing over. It sounds exactly fucking like him almost. I mean, we can tell the difference, but it still sounds. I'm like, dude. And for me, like, I understand AI, but I'm a hardless like fuck AI. Like I'm
like not a big fan of AI in general. I just, you know, I just all around. I think it's just.
I got to put my foot down.
Crap.
You know, I just got to plant my foot. You know, and like fuck AI on every level. And it's anti-human. It's fucking no. Fuck that. It takes jobs from people on different industries.
And it's not real.
Sorry. I'm
you
sorry.
Know, like I can't respect anything that's not real. You know.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm for human ingenuity.
Yep.
You know, expression, imagination, all that kind of stuff. You know, like that's the stuff that I like, the stuff that turns me on, what I like to listen to, what I like to look at. You know, give me something that somebody created any day over a program. I don't care how good it looks. Like I want the human element attached to it. Yeah,
it's the soul. It's like it to me. That's kind of what I think at the end of the day, what it's going to boil down to. It's completely fucking soulless. And there's no form of organic consciousness put into that. It's all, you know, computerized and whatnot. So I'm just like,
I had a debate, or if that's what you want to call it, a conversation with Shad.
Oh yeah. I saw
back
that.
And that was one of the biggest sticking points for me, was just the soul of it. You know, like it's soulless. Like, it's hard to explain, I guess, unless people get it and understand it. But art, when you look at something that's created by a human being by hand, there is soul to it. There's a spirit to it. There's an energy to the creation, you know, and you can see that. You can experience
and the personality, dude. That
there's a personality. Absolutely.
From their life
it's like
experiences, you know, it's
that person is putting down that on page on paper, and you're seeing that, you're experiencing it. You know, you can connect with it.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of the AI art, as good as some might look, you know, and I'm not going to be biased and say it all looks like trash. Some stuff looks really good. It can fool people, you know, but there's no soul to it. There's no energy. It's just blah, you know, like, yeah. So that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that too, man. And you were saying that you grew up in the 90s, man. I did too. I'm 40. I'm about to be 41.
I'm about to be 42, so just a little bit older than you.
You got a couple on me. So that's Image, man. You must have been.
Hell yes.
You were, you know, probably hitting the bookstores. For me, I was really into the Max and Spawn.
Oh yeah,
Pitt, you know, Pitt was like, he would cross over, and that's how I found out about Pitt, was the crossover he'd do, like the Max and number 7.
Okay.
And 6.
Yeah.
And you know, and I just love Spawn, and me and my buddies, you know, there was a bunch of comic stores. We were in like 4th or 5th grade. We would walk up there, and I could never get all the books because I didn't really have money as a kid, you know. But I got some every now and then. I did have allowance, but I couldn't buy them like consecutively, you know. So we would trade them and whatnot, and just, oh man, it was just fucking cool. And the Max was on MTV, and it was pretty cool. When it started out, it was pretty fucking badass. Like the Max.
Image was a game changer. You know, I was the right age demographic for Image when it came out. Being around like 12 years old, I believe, when I first got into it. I think Image came out when I was 10, but I didn't really get kind of the mature aspect of reading it until about 2 years later. But yeah, like I absolutely loved it. I thought I had the best art, the best characters, and I was a big Marvel guy. Like I also dug Marvel a lot, but there was something about Image that it was for the time. You know, it fit into the time of the 90s. There were edgy characters. There was more mature content in the comics. Was still being like, you know, it was good R-rated. You know, like Image, like let's say Marvel was like PG-13. Same thing with DC. And then Image comes along, and it was like an R. You know, like a lot more blood, a lot more, you know, some sexual situations. Nothing major, nothing pornographic, but just a lot more than you were seeing in Marvel.
Mr. Gone. Yeah, like even Mr. Gone, dude, he was like a serial rapist and shit. That shit was fucking
some of the some of the story content,
fucking weird shit, just out there, you know. And then obviously Spawn, you know, dealt with all kinds of crazy shit, you know.
Well, hell, and, characters like Chapel had AIDS, you know,
AIDS, like, you know.
Yeah, it was. They were edgy, dude. They were like pop culture. They were in the pop culture. They grabbed the right place at the right time, and they grabbed the pop culture in ways that the industry hadn't done before that, and they just took it into the rest of the 90s, and they created some of the best characters going forward, even after the first, you know, couple years of the launch. You know, after that came Witchblade and the Darkness, you know, and just all these just amazing characters that were created from all different studios, you know, throughout that few, I would say, like that 5-year run of Image that was just really, really good. You know, it was a short run when you think about it. In the grand scheme of things, of the last 30 years, it was a short run of really good production. But in that short time, man, you produced some amazing superstar artists, amazing books, amazing characters, great quality books. You revolutionized the industry when it came to colors. You know, they were the one that brought in the digital colors, you know, and really pushed in that direction.
Yep.
And a lot of the houses that they created, the color houses in the Image. So yeah, they revolutionized comics, man. I got great respect, and it was an exciting time.
That was my favorite time. Like, you know, just because that was when I was growing up, you know, and as I age, I go back and look at other stuff too. And there was a lot of fucking underground shit too. That was even, you know, like the Crow and, you know, I think Dead World came out. Like, there's just so much shit, you know, like that I'm discovering.
It was an
now.
expressive time, man. I mean, even in the independent scene, when you look at the 90s, there were so many great things that came out in the 90s. I mean, the bad girl craze started in the independent scene with She and Lady Death, you know. And, I mean, that started there. I mean, like, that was Cyberfrog came out in the 90s. You know, you had books like Arachnus, which a lot of people don't really remember.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, like cool. That was a badass book. Dark Horse was doing some good stuff during that time as well.
Hellboy was dope. I know it's trendy as fuck,
Hellboy,
but
Sin
Hellboy and
City.
Spawn, you know,
Yeah.
I loved Hellboy, and I didn't get into Hellboy until like probably right before the movie came out. I remember there being a statue of him, like the bone one where he's socking the ground, and he just had like the one. I was like, "Who the fuck is that? That guy looks pretty cool." I'll get back to that later.
It wasn't a book that I got into at the time, but I knew the character, and the character looked cool. And that was kind of the thing, like in the 90s, because of Wizard Magazine, you read Wizard Magazine once a month, and they're always highlighting, you know, the industry, but they always covered independent books, Image, Marvel, DC, all that kind of stuff. But you always got to see these awesome characters, whether they were pinups in the book or they were just an article being written about a character. So even if you didn't read the books, you knew who the characters were, and they were still just badass. They're just badass. I found out about Pitt, honestly, through Wizard, I believe, because I wasn't collecting Incredible Hulk at the time that Dale Keown was drawing it. But because I think he was already into Pitt by the time I discovered who Dale even was. And I'd seen Pitt in, I think, a Wizard magazine. I thought it was just the dopest looking character I'd ever seen in my life, you know. And then I ended up finding like issue 2 was the first issue I ever read, and I was just like, wow, like this is just. And then I went back and found issue 1, and it's paid a pretty penny for issue 1, because, you know, all the books back then blew up, and you're paying like $40-$50 for issue 1s, you know, at that time. But I finally got it, and I read issue 1 at Pitt, and it changed my life, man. Like the art in that was amazing. Just the heavy black inks, the Joe Chiodo colors of the kind of like the orange and yellows, like kind of warm colors, just popped right out of the blacks. And Dale Keown went insane with the art in that book. And I just, it was a great time. I mean, I can sit here and reminisce for hours about that era of comics, because it just meant so much to my childhood growing up, so much my inspirations of what I wanted to do growing up. Like I wanted to be a comic book artist from the time I was like 12 years old, dead set. That's what I was going to do, you know, and, you know, life takes different turns and everything, but there was just, in that period of the 90s, I would just sit in my room, I would draw, I would read comics. That's all I did, you know, and I hung out with friends and shit like that. But I mean, I was like, my mom had to kick me out of the house sometimes just to go outside and run around a little bit, because I was like, no, Mom, I want to sit here. I need to draw. I need to read comics, you know? And she's like, go outside, run around. We have 17 acres of woods out there. Go play. I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I mean,
Caleb.
That was like, you know, back then, you know, like in the 90s, we had it all. You know, we had the video games, you know, we would run on, because where I lived, there was just a bunch of apartment buildings, you know. Just like you go down the street and there's like thousands of people that live on one street, you know. It was kind of, I don't know, I guess you say it's kind of hood, but there was always shit to do, you know. And we had Pogs and Slammers and comics and Super Nintendo and fucking all kinds of stuff, all kinds of like trouble to get into. And it was just fun, you know. And it was a great time, man. I remember discovering Pitt like through the Max, and then just opening it up, getting the book, and seeing that fucking werewolf fight. I remember that really stuck with me. That was a thing. And it's just seeing like the image of Pitt. I'm like, this guy kind of reminds me of Sabretooth.
Dude, because
I was really a Sabretooth kid. Sabretooth, Venom, Wolverine, but I like Sabretooth a lot.
Yeah. Talking to Dale and being able to dive a little bit into it's funny, like he didn't realize how awesome of a thing that he had created at the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I get it, you're in the moment and stuff, but just the fact that you could go from Marvel to Image, and you could talk to guys like Todd McFarlane, and they could be like, do you have a character? Do you have an idea for a book?
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, absolutely. When he had no idea for a book. And then he had to put that all together in a short period of time. And then to come out with Pitt #1 with such an awesome character and a fun story, and then just kill it on the art.
Yeah.
Yo, I mean, he was just clicking on all cylinders. I mean, I think that's one of the most impressive things I think about, like just a short amount of time. And he came out with Pitt, a character that has stuck around, even though he's only ever created 20 issues of that book. Has stuck around for 30 years, where people still love that character because it had such an impact at that time, that 92 when it came out. It was just the right time. You know, it's the right time for that character to come out.
And you said you started drawing when you were about 10 years old. That's when you started drawing.
It was between like 8 and 10. I can't. The older I get, I can't remember. Like I know, like I always used to doodle and shit. You know, obviously, like most kids do. And I think my mom recognized I had a little bit of natural talent with what I was drawing, so encouraged me to draw.
Oh yeah,
and I think I got into probably around 10 is when I met a kid named Joe, oddly enough, who I became really good friends with, and he was a really good artist, like way better than I was, and he was a year older than me. But he had read the book like How to Draw the Marvel Way and knew all these techniques on actually how to draw, and he kind of helped me out quite a bit with advancing my skill in drawing, just showing me some stuff that I had no idea because I was just drawing naturally.
Right.
And I would say probably around that time is when I really started to get into comics, specifically because of him, because he had a big ass collection. That was the first time I was actually diving into books and reading X-Men and, discovering guys like Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld and like all these guys I didn't really know at the time, and when that happened, it completely changed my direction, my thought of what I wanted to do. I fell in love with comics. I fell in love with drawing, and it was nonstop for the rest of my 8 years I was a teenager.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, man. Like who were some of your like major? I mean, I know we talked about Pitt and Del Keown, but like who were some of your major like influences? Like when you were growing up.
Character wise or artists?
Both.
Well, artist wise, like the first artist I got into was Todd McFarlane. It's because I was a big Spider-Man fan at the time, and I discovered him with his Spider-Man run, not his amazing run, but the Spider-Man run. Because like I said, I was probably about 10 years old when Image started, so it would have been after he already did Spider-Man. But it was kind of the books I was kind of discovering at the time. So I was a big Todd McFarlane fan, and then I discovered Jim Lee, and I fell in love with Jim Lee, and for years I was just straight Jim Lee simp. Like I just thought he was the best artist in the world. I was trying to draw like him.
Well, he's just real strong rock foundation artist too, like bold, like fucking like gravity, like fucking stoic big motherfuckers, you know what I mean? Like in his his art.
The early 90s, Sylvester, I'll get to that for sure. The early 90s Jim Lee, though, it was just heads and shoulders above everybody else. Him and Scott Williams, what they were doing on X-Men and then going into Wildcats, and it was something else. It just looked different than a lot of guys art. Then I got in guys like Liefeld. I was really attracted to just the action that Liefeld did. There was just something about his pencils, even though they weren't as refined as like a Jim Lee. There was something special in his early work. And actually, it's just working in the 90s in general. Like character wise too, he created some awesome characters.
Some great character design. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, fun character, like Bad Rock and Shaft and Chapel and like all these guys.
His shit was just awesome. Like it was fun. You know what I mean? Like
and that's it. It was just fun
and entertaining art. You know what I mean? That's how I looked at him.
And then I got into Dale Keown. I got huge into Dale Keown when Pitt came out, and he was my favorite artist for a long time. And then Stephen Platt was a big influence on me. And then I got into Silvestri. I always knew who Silvestri was, but I didn't like fall for him hardcore until like probably around like The Darkness, when The Darkness came out, and I really started to get more into his art. And I've been a Mark Silvestri guy ever since. Like that, I haven't come off of Silvestri since that period of time, and he's been my number one influence. Not so much where you can look at my art and be like, "Oh, this dude is a Silvestri disciple." That's not the case at all. But there are some things I like that Silvestri does that I try to do, but I still try to keep my style as much as possible. But Silvestri is definitely probably my favorite artist of all time, and probably be that way until the day I die.
I remember seeing The Darkness and just being like awestruck by the way it looked, you know what I mean? And with just like the colors and whatnot, and seeing, I was like, dude, that reminds me of fucking Spawn and the Crow. You know what I mean? Because he had the hair, but I was just like, look at it, like, fuck, that's intimidating. I don't even want to try to draw that. Like, because I'll go draw the Max.
It was a hard design. It was a hard design to draw. Yeah.
I'm just like, fuck that shit. And like, even like some, you know what I mean? But I was just like, damn, and my little brother would play the video game. The video game was cool, but even just as a kid, and I liked it because, and then also reminded me of the Max because he had his but which were his demons, you know what I mean? So it had a little bit of not really an influence, but it kind of reminded me of the Black
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
So,
actually, that's a good point.
I just thought it was really fucking cool, dude. So it was just like three characters I really liked, Spawn, the Crow, and the Max a little bit, and the game, and then my little brother was playing the game, which was cool. And then Mike Patton did the voice of the monsters of the Darkness, and Yeah, man. And then I started seeing Silvestri's like actual inks. Because I mean the colors were really beautiful on a lot of the covers and stuff, but seeing his inks is for me like that's like the meat and the potatoes. So seeing that, I just love how scratchy and fucking punk his style is. You know, just real sketchy, real scribbly. I love that. You know.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Seeing that Batman piece. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting now, like his art, the way it is now. Like like we were just talking about with the Batman stuff, where he's doing everything himself. He's penciling, he's inking, and he's got like a lot more of a sketchy style, which is great. It's fantastic. When Darkness rolled around, he was still working with inkers like Bat, who I thought complemented Silvestri very well with his lines. He was able to take Silvestri's lines and then really bring him out better than any inker besides Scott Williams to that point that Silvestri worked with. And then, he got with guys like Weems, and Weems did a fantastic job inking him for years. And then just graduating and being like, screw it, I'm gonna start inking myself, and I'm gonna change my style up from being like this real sharp, line work into more this sketchy, energetic, dynamic stuff that he's doing now.
I love that.
Everything he does is great. Everything he does.
Yeah.
I love every era of Mark Silvestri's art.
I love that. Like what I really, really got into him was just in that one image of Batman in the alley with the pearls. You know that one.
Yeah, the Batman, the black and white image that they did years ago. Yeah,
and that just I was like fucking. I always remember my friend like Silvestri. That's Silvestri. I'm like okay, and I remember the name Silvestri. But I never really associated it with the Darkness or anything like that. But I remembered it. And I always thought the Darkness was a cool character because they would always kind of show him with Rich Blade and whatnot, like a lot of marketing with Top Cow and whatnot. I met Silvestri too at Comic-Con. Nice guy.
He's crazy nice. Yeah, I met him
really
2 years ago.
Nice guy.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet him 2 years ago at a fan expo in Chicago, and I was there for 3 days. And each day I went up to his table to get stuff signed and talk to him. Incredibly awesome dude. Awesome, just very, very nice, down to earth. Loves his fans. Makes time to talk to you about whatever. I got into Silvestri with Cyberforce because, again, like I said, I was big into Image Comics.
Yeah.
Cyberforce was his first book that he did. And even though I wasn't as into Silvestri at that time because I was still obsessed with Jim Lee with Wildcats.
Yeah.
But that was when I first kind of started to notice Silvestri because of Image Comics. And then I went back and I checked out Wolverine and Uncanny X-Men and stuff they did prior to that.
Yeah.
And like I said, when he did Spawn 25, so I say Darkness is when I realized the awesomeness of Silvestri. Let me backtrack that a little bit. And I'll say the Spawn 25 issue that he did with that X month where everyone switched different titles. And he switched with Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane did a Cyberforce book, and Silvestri did Spawn. Because I was into Spawn at the time, I obviously got that book. I was like, oh, cool, Silvestri's doing it. Checked it out. Loved it. I was like, oh, man, like it was a different side of Silvestri than I had seen up to that point. Embracing that kind of storytelling with the darker elements and the blacks and all the stuff that you would add into a story like that because it's primarily night and it was a single character instead of the team stuff that he had been doing. And not too long after that, he came out with The Darkness, and that was kind of like this transition in his stuff where he went from like this traditional kind of Marvel style with Cyberforce and everything, and then transitioned into like the more edgier 90s version of Mark Silvestri with The Darkness and the stuff he did. And it was just at that point, I was just like, this stuff is it's too dope. Like it was just so good. Like there was something special about The Darkness run all around. Colors were great too. It was a good book.
I love that style too, like just that scratchy, fucking sketchy, fucking punk, like energetic style. It also reminds me that, again, they're not anything like it, but Walt Simonson, he does that a lot, the sketchiness. And for me, it's like I can't do it really like the way I draw. I do, I don't know, like circles and shit, but I fucking love that, man. And like I love it when artists do that. And I don't know. I love seeing that. You know what I mean? Even when they color over it, like they don't go hard on the colors. You really see the hand and like them getting in there and cutting into the paper, And I don't know, man. There's just something about it drives me nuts. It gets me giddy, man.
I've always been a fan of like the edgier or sharp kind of styles. And when I say sharp, I mean it's more like pointy. Like instead of being all nice and round with all the shapes,
the corners, right?
Yeah, you take a chance to do a little bit of points, even on something that should be probably round, you put a little bit of a sharp edge on it. It just kind of gives a little bit of a dynamic to it. I picked that up from Silvestri primarily with a lot of the stuff he did. And I like that in my own style. Obviously, I like that in his style and anybody else's style that does it. But it just, it adds something. I can't even put my finger on what it actually does, but just it makes it stand out a little bit more. Because, we're living in a fantasy world when it comes to comics. I like comics that don't have to look, we're not worried about realistic, so I don't have to draw a body proportion in a very realistic way, as long as it looks correct, so I can put weird edges on things that shouldn't have edges, like I can make an elbow sharp, or I can make a shoulder a little bit sharper, instead of rounding off a muscle, I can give it just a little bit of an edge, sometimes it's just pleasing to the eye, and that's what I love about it.
Oh yeah, it looks awesome. I think Finch does that too. That was like the first time I ever heard but it was like it was, I don't know, it was one of his drawing videos or something like that.
You broke up there for a second, but I'm pretty sure you're saying Finch is another guy, too. I mean, and again, he came up through Top Cow, tutored under Silvestri, if that's what you want to call it, but learned a lot of stuff from Silvestri and carried that into his own career, and he's just a phenomenal artist anyway. But yeah, using some of those reverse shapes to really kind of if you're doing a round shape, if you're doing like a round shape, let's say for a tricep, you're doing a round shape and then you do the reverse right after it, so you get this kind of, I can't remember what he called it, but you get like these.
Oh. Thanks, buddy.
Hey there, bud.
Sorry.
Sorry, he wants to be part of the interview. I like it.
Yeah, you want to give me some popcorn?
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good kid right there.
Oh yeah. What was I going to say? So with that being said, when you have your style, and like for when you're setting up a page, how do you go about that? Do you write it out, or do you just do your thumbnails? Do you do both? How do you go about doing that?
Primarily because I'm the writer of the book, I don't technically work off a script. I kind of have an idea, a layout in my head of what I want to do. And I might have like a written layout of, the direction of the page so I don't forget or something. But I change stuff up on the fly anyway, just all the time. If something better pops in my head when I get to a page, I just go right to the page. I just take my 11 by 17. I sit there with a dull pencil, and I just start sketching out the scene that's in my head and how best to lay that out. And I'll do a lot of mental work before I start to draw the page. I sit and I think about it for a long time. I just envision it in my head, what it could look like, what I want to achieve. And a lot of times I have a couple different stages. I have the stage in my head of beyond my capability, of what I would like to do, and I always think about like the first thing that pops in my head is like what looks the coolest, and I'm thinking like, oh, this is gonna look good, this angle is gonna be great, I'm gonna do all this.
Oh yeah.
And and then sometimes I'll get to the page and realize that what's in my head is a little bit beyond my capabilities at that time.
Me too.
Which is fine, I'll keep on working on that as we go. But
the stars, right?
Yeah, you gotta shoot for the stars, but you also have to produce a good page. So sometimes I'll just pull it back a little bit and be like, all right, what are my strengths? What do I do very well right now? And then kind of lean into my strengths. So I try to put a lot of my strengths on the page, and then just how dynamic can I make the storytelling of the page, instead of just grid panel. Yeah. I think of the scene. I'm like, do I want to do 4 panels? Or do I want to do 5? Do I want to do big panels and do 3? Or do I want to, space out a little bit more and let's do 6 panels? Once I discover that, then I just go loosely sketch everything. And once the entire page is laid out, then I'll go and start rendering it and then inking it afterwards. Or if I'm working with an inker, I send it to the inker after I've rendered it. But I always make sure I spend the most time on that layout that I can, so it looks the coolest possible, and because I'm really big on page layout, because to me it's another artistic form, not 100%. Just the art that's in the panels. It's the way that the page looks in general. It's got to be cool to the eye. There are some pages that just call for a more standard style of paneling, which is fine. It's just fine. It's just storytelling. But then when you get a chance to kind of experiment or just go balls to the wall and be like, oh, I want to do this, like I have no boundaries for the kind of panel designs that I use. Whatever I want to use is, whatever I do, however I can fit it on the page, whether it's a bunch of different jagged lines or if it's just a square, rectangle or
Yeah.
square or whatever. It's whatever it looks good is what I go with, you know.
Yeah, I that's how I look at it too, man. And like sometimes I'll look at it like, damn, like I don't know, does this got that cool factor? You know what I mean? Like or like grid, like gutter wise and panel wise. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of boring. I don't know. Like sometimes I'll think like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
How can I spice this up? You know what I mean? Like do you, like for me, like I type out a big script. You know what I mean? And then I print it out and I staple it. But that's amorphous.
Gotcha.
That's like it's just working. And I write in there. I write notes in it. It gets really coffee stains on it. Everything. But
Nice.
it's there. It's my Bible. And then I'll probably go back a year later because it takes me a long time to do a book. I'm like, I got time. I'm going to do shit. But if it takes me 3 years, it's going to take me fucking 3 years. Right. But I'm going to do it, you know? So, like, do you have something like that too, where you type it out and like, or do you have something on a computer or do you kind of
everything's in my head.
Okay, cool.
Everything is in my head. It's just the easiest way for me to work. Like I said, there'll be times when I'll sit down and I'll write out like a synopsis of what I want the book, what I want the issue to be about, or what I want the entire story to be about. So once I get that all figured out, then it's kind of like, all right, now I'm going and working issue to issue. For Reaper Destroyer 1, I was kind of learning how to write a little bit more at the time than just storytelling. So I was working with a writer at the time who was helping me kind of format a script. And the way we did it is we did like Marvel method, right? Where we were just like, he's like, what do you want to happen you know, in the book? And let's break it down per page and let's make sure that we hit all our beats and we do our development and we'll describe like on page 1, this happens, page 2, page 3, you know, so on and so forth. And then I would just go in and draw those scenes, knowing where I had to get, what the page turn was going to be, you know.
That's awesome.
And
like Marvel style method.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the way I work for myself. You know, like I've never really been good working with writers because my mind works differently. Like I've been hired on different projects in the past before I started doing Reaper Destroyer where they had a script. You know, I'd read the script and I'm just like, I see things completely different. I want to do stuff different. And I changed things up, you know, so it was just a pain in the butt, you know, it was a pain in the butt to work off of somebody else's stuff. And I really discovered like, that's not me. That's not how I'm wired. I'm not a comic book artist that just wants to draw comics. I want to draw my own thing. That's how that's my strength, is drawing my own thing based on my mind and my storytelling, not somebody else's. So that just allows a lot of freedom to go and do what I want and tweak things, you know, like with Reaper Destroyer, it was really fun. Like I had a format for what I was doing with issue 1. And every time I get to a page and say like that page just wasn't working out, you know, like the idea of the page, I would completely throw it out and I'd be like, I'm going to do something else because it looks cool, still fits within my format of the story, you know, so maybe I'm tweaking things a little bit. Well, that's fine because I'm doing the script afterwards. So I can make everything work within the story. If I'm like, hey, I want to change this in this scene. I want to change this up. You know, I know I was going to do this, but I'm going to do this now. And it still fits in what I want to do. So it's the ultimate freedom. And it's kind of like the on the whim thing. The perfect example of that is I have his character Apophis in the book, who's he's like the second main character. He's the spirit that possesses Matt, who is the man that's trapped inside this suit of armor. And in the beginning, he was just supposed to be a voice in his head that he would just kind of have to contend with, like kind of like the devil on the shoulder kind of character. And the more I thought about his character, he didn't have a huge role other than that in the story. And as I'm developing the story and as I'm drawing it, I'm thinking to myself, like, you know what? It's coming to light that this guy needs a bigger role in this story in general. He's just too cool of a character not to have a bigger role than just a voice that is a script, you know? So then I started to develop his look and what I wanted to do with him, more of his backstory. And then I opened that up within the first issue to give him more screen time, so to speak. Because I was like, you know, you ever notice like when you have a format of a story, which it's a loose format, so it allows me to go in and make changes like that, where I know what the story is, I know what the main characters are, I know A to B and like all this kind of stuff and what we're doing in between. But there's enough room to be like, hey, I want to give this character a little bit more time because my mind has now expanded the story where I'm like, this fits perfectly where subconsciously maybe I left room for it, but now I have so much room, and this is it's gonna make everything make even more sense if I give this character a little bit more time and importance in the story. And so that allowed me to do that. And, and just that freedom, I was like, change things up on the fly. I'm going to give him a little bit more screen time, and make him more of a focus. And that's what I love about the independent storytelling and writing, where I'm not, I don't have to worry about somebody else, coming up with the ideas, and I'm just drawing. I'm like, hey, this is good. People like this character. And that was the thing too. Like I released pictures of Apophis, and people really seem to like the character. And so you listen to the audience, right? You listen to the people that are backing the book. You're like, oh, you like this character? I'm going to give you more of it then,
Give them what they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a similar situation because the book I'm working on, Hell War, my main character, Hell War, he's breaking his brother out of prison. He's been in there for thousands of years, and in the scene, he kind of, Hell Nora is the ruler of Hell, and she's, he does something to where finally she's gonna let him go. She snaps his fingers, whatnot. And that was going to be it. His chains fall off, and then him and his brother go, they drink some ale and, but I was like, damn, dude, I want to show him in his fucking cell. I want to see him kind of just chilling in there. I want to see his eyes like sitting there in the fucking cold cell in hell,
right?
All chained up. But now grab him and rip him out of the cell and, take him up to the throne room. And before I never even thought about that, it's, again, like on the fly, you know what I mean? Thinking of stuff, adding it to the story and expanding on characters, it's fucking cool.
Well, it's cool. The whole thing is really, really fun to me because there were elements of the story that I had in place originally that by the time I was getting to drawing the scenes and thinking out the scenes, I thought of a better way to do it. And that allowed me to be able to switch it up and be like, I'm going to change this up because again, I do all my scripting afterwards. When I'm drawing a scene, I have a loose idea of what's going on and what's going to be said, but I don't really sit down until the art is done. And I really just sit there and I go over scene by scene as I'm writing my script and I'm getting into my characters' heads, and being my characters, that I really get the actual dialogue going and, a lot of better, script comes out, I think, than the original idea. And one of the things I absolutely love,
it's true,
because Kayla, if she's in the chat,
it's not going to ever be as good until later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll come back and even a fucking year later, you'll come back like that shit's kind of whack or something. You know what I mean?
Dialogue is very important to me. I don't like cheesy dialogue. I want to be thoughtful with exactly how my characters talk and how I make them talk within the world with each other.
Like it's got to be entertaining too, right? Like
I have a
realistic, right? But it's also entertaining. It's very serious,
Yeah, I have a little bit of like humor in some of the stuff I do, but not to the point where it's like, modern day cheese, humor where it's just like, oh, that's a stupid joke. I'm trying to make it organic to where these characters can actually interact with each other. Like, how does this character talk? What's their personality? How does it interact with this character and their personality? And how would they have a conversation back and forth? So one person talks this way, the other character talks this way. And I have to be able to balance that back and forth between the two characters to make it seem organic and not just like they both speak the same language and the same, everything,
right.
And that's what I see in modern comics now. Like every character sounds exactly the same
person.
And I want to make sure that all my characters have the personality.
Voice,
that how they talk, how they pronunciate, anything that can make them interesting. And a lot of it is like I just think about movies or TV series, and that's kind of how I write, and that's kind of how I dialogue, because I've watched so many movies and TV series after a while, and because an actor has an individual way that they act and they deliver lines, you're always going to see a character be different from another character. So when you actually watch a good, well-written scene between two characters that have good dialogue between each other, that helps out a lot to me. Like when I'm thinking about these scenes and these characters talking, I just think of it like a movie. Like if they're sitting together and they're talking back and forth, how's it going to sound, and how am I going to make it seem as cool as possible, without it being the stereotypical comic book cheesy, writing, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's gotta be, fun and, entertaining and engaging, the conversation. Yeah, movies are pretty cool, like inspiration too for me as well. I have the campaign up right here, man. I was wondering, you down if I play the trailer real quick?
Oh, absolutely. It's about I think a minute long. So actually, yeah, go ahead and play it. I gotta turn my heater off down here, so this will work.
It's a badass trailer, man.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun. A lot of fun doing it.
Fucking metal, man. Yeah,
It's
man.
interesting because the story I haven't talked a lot about the story specifically because there's a lot of setup in issue 1 and there's some mystery involved. And it's one of those things like I wanted to get the book out more or first, and I can dive more into the story. So hopefully whoever buys the book digs it and is looking forward to issue 2, and I'll be much more down to start talking about where we're going from here, what the end of issue 1 means, and like all this kind of stuff. So the trailer is kind of like, when an ancient evil is resurrected, I'm thinking like, yeah, that's part of it, but like the trailer doesn't do it justice of what the story is actually about. And I think that's kind of cool. It lends a little bit of a mystery on what I'm actually telling here, because I've said that anybody that likes Spawn in the Darkness are going to like this book. But if you buy it expecting to be Spawn in the Darkness, you're going to be very disappointed because it has nothing to do with that style of storytelling. It's not heaven versus hell or anything. There are spiritual elements in evil and good and evil and all this kind of stuff, but it's such a bigger story than just the kind of boiled down. And nothing against Spawn in the Darkness. I love those books, you know what I'm saying? But it's not a ripoff of that kind of concept,
Oh, 100%, man. I remember when you did the ash can. I got that.
Yes, sir.
I'm like, I'm not even gonna open this up. I got yours, and I got type 1 too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Sean, I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna hold on to these. I'm gonna get the books first, and yeah, man, I can't wait. I love this. It really brings back memories of like Spawn. I love the artwork in here. I love like this cityscape.
It's funny because like the idea about this character is very much in the reminiscence of Spawn in the Darkness or Moon Knight, and just all those kind of like dark anti-heroes of the 90s. And there's some things I do in the comic book that I do straight up like nods, like that panel right there in issue 1 where you got the Wump. That's straight up my like nod to McFarlane Capullo, something that they would do, a very simple kind of silhouetted impact scene of just kind of showing a cape or whatever. But like that's kind of just my nod to like McFarlane and stuff. And I like to do that with some of the stuff in this book, is just give a nod to my favorite artists and inspirations. And I think anybody that gets the book that's an artist or whatever will probably see that. What's going on, Rick?
What's up, brother?
Within the book itself. But but again, like the story is very expansive. Like I set out to create an entire universe and not just a storyline. So like other stuff that's going to come down the lines from Superior Press, which is my company, will expand the actual universe. But the story of Reaper Destroyer can spread from the beginning of time to the end of time. And
That's awesome.
the main story focuses on, the current period of time, which, there's no dates in the book, but I'd say like, current day, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's no year that's established in the book, but that's where we're at. And it's a story that, deals with immortal characters and evil entities and, spiritual realms and things of that nature. But we can kind of jump back and forth when we get deeper into the storyline to explain some of these characters' backstories, their histories, where they came from. I've got a great deal of mystery within a lot of the characters as well that is, designed to kind of unfold slowly as we read the story. So just a bunch of elements. Like I said, I grew up in the 90s, man. Like there were so many great movies that were like that, right? I mean, even if you're thinking of like Tarantino and stuff where like Pulp Fiction, where it was just kind of all over the place. I like elements of that where you just can maybe you think one thing's going to happen and eventually I'm going to show you that it's going to be something completely different,
Well, it's cool too, leaving like the mystique too, like not knowing too much, and like this book's got some big hype around it, you know what I mean? And a lot of like little questions are going to get answered when we start reading it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that, man, and it keeps people engaged. Like for me, even not knowing an origin, I like that even more now. You know what I mean? Like for Wolverine, we didn't get his origin for like 30 years. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that's a big thing. Like now, for books I want to make and books I read, I like not knowing so much sometimes. I think it just causes intrigue.
Yeah, I was like, I'm to the point where I don't like origin stories anymore. So this book is designed to throw you right into the mix and then have you as a reader try to figure out what's going on, as well as the main actor or the main character here, Matt, kind of has a little bit of amnesia or so what's going on. It's kind of like Spawn a little bit in that aspect. It's
amnesia horror.
Yeah, it's probably the only thing that's like Spawn-esque when it comes to the book. And I really kind of got the idea more from Jason Bourne, the Bourne movies, than I did from anything Spawn-wise, because I like the idea of a character that didn't know their backstory, which is not a unique thing. It's a good storytelling element, but has all these abilities and doesn't know why. Has to figure out what it is. Well, how does he fit within the story? How does he fit within character-wise of everything that's going on around him? Who can he trust? And the dynamics between him and Apophis are really fun, because Apophis is a character that is basically a spirit, an evil spirit that's trying to possess Matt. They're both trapped inside the suit of armor, and they're not friends by any means. They're enemies, and they're meant to be enemies. That's how I've written them. But they are forced to work together because they're both in a situation where they need to work it out. But Apophis has his own goals that we will see throughout the book, and Matt's got his own goals, and it's like, how do you trust when one person is telling you that it's the truth? Are they leading you astray, or are they leading you to your doom? Can you trust his people? So the book relies around a lot about trust issues with a lot of different characters, which allows me to do a lot of fun things, a lot of twists and turns,
Oh yeah, man. It's exciting. And then you also have like the supplemental book too, as well. That's correct.
Yeah,
right?
I've got a supplemental book. The campaign did very well, so I was blessed with the ability to go out and hire some people to do some work for me that I couldn't do. So one of my supplemental stories, which is a 10 page backup story, I wrote, and it was the first time I was able to write and have another artist draw what I was writing, which was a very fun experience, by the way. Like, I gotta give a shout out to writers. As much shit as I give writers, I gotta say I wouldn't mind being a writer one day, because it is kind of fun just to see somebody else bring your world to life, and you write words, it's fun.
Yeah.
But Oliver Isabedra did a great job of drawing the supplemental book and on my story. If you go down a little farther, there's samples of his art, and he's just a fantastic artist. He's probably one of my favorite indie artists right now, and I was very, very happy to work with him on that story. And that story. Dude. I'm sorry, what?
So much dope art, man.
Like, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Love looking at it.
So this gets into Oliver's art right now, and this is a story, again, like I said, the character Apophis. I was like, he needs more screen time, right? And I was like, I can't do that in the main book because the way the story's set up, even though I expanded his story, but like, let's do a backup story. Let's show you a little bit more of who he is, and I'll show you this character design. And the way Oliver drew him, based on my character design, like, he took my design and tweaked it a little bit. And I told him, I was like, dude, you got the freedom. I was like, if you want to change it up a little bit, you do what you do, because I have respect for artists like that. and I want to give them the room to have their feel. And he came up with this dope ass design for my character that had everything I had, but just put his own flair on it. And I was like, dude, I'm going with your design from now on. Like, is the way you took my design and added your own stuff into it. That's it. Like, that's the design of Apophis now going forward. And that backup story is fun. It gives you a little look into his world, where he comes from, what his motivations might be going into the first issue. So it's definitely a good pickup and a good read that fits right into the main book. And then the second story that's in the supplemental is written by our very own Kayla, who's in the chat. And she wrote a backup story for one of my characters. Vanessa is one of the big villains of the story.
Oh shit!
And this was drawn by Fabio Simo, who's another fantastic artist.
He's another fucking badass.
Yeah, loved it. And both those guys are very awesome to talk to. They're very great people, individuals.
I seen him the other day on Rex's stream, Fabio.
Yeah, I gotta get him on my stream. I gotta get him. I keep saying,
loving his art.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. It's so good. And Kayla's story is great because my story is very much action, right? My story is very, very much action, and her story is a little bit more cerebral. It does have action in it, but it's a little bit more cerebral. So it's a nice give and take from one storytelling element to another. And she's a fantastic writer. I can't wait for everybody to read the book when it comes out. And she's gonna be doing a lot more writing for me down the line when it comes to it. Like, I've really enjoyed working with her. Fantastic mind.
It's cool writing, working with writers you trust. I'm doing that with my homie Brian. You know what I mean? I've never worked with the writer, and I can't wait. It's kind of fun, and it's fun doing it with people that you trust, but they're not there to kiss your ass either, though. You know what I mean?
No,
to fucking keep you in line too. You know what I mean?
Well, so that's why Kayla's she's also an editor, which is cool because she's got an editor's eye when it comes to a lot of stuff. So that helps out quite a bit. But just talking to Kayla over the last year has really helped me expand my story in general, because what I need as a creator, and I'm sure you're like this too, but when you finally get somebody, another writer, where you can sit down and just have conversations where you're just talking about your story, you're talking about your world, what you want to do, where you're going to go. And sometimes they'll just ask questions, or they'll just say something, and it makes something goes off in your head. You're like, oh, I just have a great idea. A great idea is just popped in my head for the story, and it would just take you in a different direction. So she's been such a giant help for me over the last year or so. Just talking about my universe and just getting it going. Things I want to do with Reaper Destroyer, things I want to do with other books and other characters I would like to release over this year and the next year.
Fuck yeah. That's cool.
My ultimate goal this year is to release another, a couple more campaigns besides Reaper Destroyer 2, to try to get some other books going and get the world expansive. So
that's fucking awesome.
I've got a game plan, a business model, if that's what you want to call it, in place, and I'll probably be talking about that more on my channel the closer we get to it. But I've got an idea to kind of get more books out, maybe in a cheaper fashion for backers and all this than what we normally see. And just, expand this universe, because I want to write comics, man. I'm getting older. Like you said, we're in our 40s now. I'm going to be 42 next month.
I'm all about stories, bro. Like, I want
to
I want to create like a fucking a bunch of work, dude. I want to have a wealth of work.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Before you know what I mean? So that's what I'm working on right now.
We come from the Image days, and when you talk about all of my influences, like the Lees, the Silvestris, the Liefelds, they had their studios within Image, but they had their universes. They had their catalog of different characters. And that's what I want to do. Like, that's my influence. There's the main book that I'll do, but I have way more characters that I want to get out there, and I want to hire people to do them and write them and draw them and get them out there into the ether, so to speak, and just expand stuff. I don't want to just do one book and done. Like, I've got just a grander idea of the stuff that I want to do, And I'm just getting older. I think you might have frozen. Oh, there you go.
I'm the same way. Sorry. This fucking
you're fine.
Internet the past couple months. Loving this art, man. You got like all-star team on here. You've picked a lot of fucking dope ass artists, some of the best in comics. Dale Keown, you got Dan Dahl, Shelby Robertson.
Yes.
A lot of alum from you got Magnum right there. Or no, that's not. That's
So that's Chauncey Blakey, who did if anybody is familiar with him. I haven't seen him do like too much actual comic book work yet. I hope he does sometime, but he's fantastic. He drew actually one of my favorite poses of Reaper Destroyer.
Oh,
And
really?
it was like this is one of my favorites. Like when he did this, I was blown away. I was like, dude, this is awesome. I still think it's one of his best pieces. He just killed it. You know, I just love the tone of it. You know, kind of the inspiration that he took, the way he went with this card. So yeah, I had a blast hiring him to do stuff. Yeah, like you said, Dan Dahl did another card. I've got Corey Barton. Clayton Barton did a pinup for me. That's
nice.
going to be a print in the campaign. Was one part of the stretch goals. I don't have it on the actual feed, but you're going to get something of his on there. Joe Ball's, you know, got a card that's going to be on. That was part of the stretch goal.
Yeah. Love Joe Ball.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of fantastic guys attached to this. Besides the people that are just in the actual book, you know, I get to work with, you know, Matt Banning and Joe Weems, you know, Top Cow alums that came on and did some inking on the book. I hope that they were going to do more, but they ended up just doing what they did, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this campaign is going to be a big fucking, like, years from now, people are going to talk about, like, damn, dude, fucking, he got all these fools, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to look back, like, that was a reunion of sorts for fucking Top Cow, and he just brought in all these fucking badass, like, slayers, you know?
Yeah, I was living a dream. I mean, I'm still living a dream, don't get me wrong, but there was a short period of time where I was it was almost like I couldn't miss. I would just talk to people and be like, hey, would you like to be a part of this project? And they'd be like, yeah. I'm like, oh, serious? Like, cool. You know, like
who wouldn't want to be fucking part of it though? I mean, it's just a dope ass character. I mean, I think like, you know, like, I don't know, man. Like most people most dudes in the comics love this stuff. You know what I mean? Love the character. Character's a sick design. He looks fucking fun to draw. It's intriguing.
And that's, give much away. That's the thing I take the most pride of is the design of the character. One, he is a very fun character to draw. I really enjoy drawing because there's so many different elements you can play with. And I've heard a lot of other artists that I've hired on, or just people that have done fan art of the character that have fun drawing the character. And I take a lot of pride when someone says, hey, this is a fun character to draw. You know, even some of the professionals, I've got some covers for issue 2 that I've commissioned and got back already. We're keeping under wraps until it's time to talk about, but just, you know, when I get that back and they're like, yeah, this was a fun character to draw, you know, I'm like, as soon as I hear that, it's just, you know, very fulfilling. I take the most pride in that, just the character design and the fact that, you know, it's a character that can grab your attention, you know, and that's, I sold the book mostly on the art and the character design, you know, like even on launch night on Bancroft's channel, we never even talked about what the book was about on launch night, because it was just the campaign, it went off so well, but we just spent time looking at the art, you know, like I sold it on the art, and I'm kind of like, that's comics, right? Comics to me is art first and then story, you know?
Exactly. Like the cover sells it, but the fucking story brings them back, and they're going to buy more of it. You know what I mean? But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a fucking visual medium. Like I'm going to buy, the art has to be good. It's like 70-30 of the art. For me, and I think for most people too, whether they want to admit it or not, you know, like most comic fans do, they want their fucking art, you know, and you don't really get it like this level of detail, like in this style, like in shops anymore, man.
And that was one of the things, like I wanted to kind of bring back that feel when I was doing this. Again, it's just where I come from, right? My influences were the 90s artists, you know, and to me that is comic book art. That's the style that it should be. It should be detailed art. It should be like, you know, stuff that gives your eye something to look at, you know, like I wanted to bring that back in a big way into the indie scene with my book. And when I started first showing off the character and, you know, presenting that I had a book that was coming up, the first people that kind of gravitated to me were the people that were coming from like they're probably my age or whatever, but they were like, dude, we were waiting for a book like this. Like I was a huge fan of Image. This reminds me of Top Cow. This reminds me of this, you know, I can't wait for it because of those elements. And that's exactly the demographic I was going for, you know?
Oh, 100%. You down to go over some of these tiers real quick?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, the biggest tier we have in the featured tier is the Destroyer tier. That's the most expensive tier, and I get it. It's $200, but you get everything that comes in the campaign, all the covers. So I've got my cover, Dale's cover, Shelby's cover, the black and white edition of the book, and then I've got the Virgin covers of my cover and Shelby's cover. Those all come in the book. There's an exclusive full foil ash can that you get in this tier. You get the supplemental book as well in this tier. And then obviously everything that comes with it, all the stretch goals, and we are trying to get to 100 on this. Like we've got 93 so far purchased, because they don't count the secret tier numbers, you know, tiers, so there's way more tiers that have been claimed than they show on the actual page. So I think we're 3 away from 100. If we get to 100, we're going to be putting in metal trading cards, black and white metal trading cards. And if we get to like 110, we're going to put in colored versions of those cards. So we're trying to make that well worth the price of the $200 for that tier. And I'm probably forgetting something. There's a lot of stuff that's going in there. I'm probably forgetting something, but and then you can just get the individual book, which is my cover is the wraparound cover. At the time,
I remember, man, like when you yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I just I probably got a little robot right there. Probably, but I was gonna say, man, I remember like the first image of Reaper Destroyer, like from your Art and Stuff show, man, just like him on the side of the roof, you know what I mean, overlooking the city. Like, damn, that's just fucking badass. You know what I mean? I can't wait till he fucking. I hope, you know. And you were really kind of coy about it. Yeah, it's my book. I'm working on something.
Yeah.
You know? I'm like, dude, that fucking people. I know. I want to see that. I want to see that book. What's it about, man? Are you gonna launch that book? What's up, man? You know? It's just fucking crazy to see it. And like that was probably like 2 years.
It was. Yeah, it was 2020. It was the end of 2020 when I first showed off the art for that.
It's a fucking monster now. You know, love it.
Yeah, it's funny because like I showed off that art and I really hadn't even started drawing the book. That was like the first thing I drew was that cover / promotional piece that I was trying to do.
Yeah, and I love that piece, man. One of my favorite pieces, even to this day. You know, it just
people say that as well. They're like, you know, they're kind of disappointed I didn't make that a cover on the actual campaign. And the only reason I didn't is because I did that ash can. And one of the selling points of the ash can was it was going to be a collectible to that ash can.
Yeah.
And it was only after that people were like, oh, we like it. You know, it should have been a cover for the campaign. I was like, damn it.
When you make the movie, that should be the movie.
That'll be in the movie.
That'll be the movie. The movie poster. That was dope as fuck.
So I'm finding a way. I'm going to actually do a new version of that cover for issue 2 for the catch-up tier.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That I'm working on right now. So I'll keep my promise that original version will never be printed again. So this will be a newer version, kind of updated, but the same picture.
Level up. Because your art changed by now. Your art's already changed.
So the art is actually the same, but I just changed some things within the picture itself. Because there are some story elements that I hadn't figured out in the story when I drew that picture. So there's some things I changed in the picture itself. Digitally, I just went over and drew over some things and replaced a couple things to make it fit more of the story, so that on the catch-up, it'll be an issue 1 catch-up cover. So it'll kind of all work together. So you guys will see it when I release it when we get closer to the second issue. Yeah, Rick's saying I have the metal cards on my X. I'll be posting the colored cards soon. So shout out to Rick. He's my talent manager. I say that tongue in cheek, but he's done a lot of stuff for this campaign. The Destroyer tier is really his baby. It was one of his ideas. I talked to a small group of people before I launched the campaign of different things, different tiers that I could create, being a first-time creator.
Yeah.
And he was big on this. And this was one of the things from the very beginning. He was like, dude, you got to have this. We're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. So I really let him run with this. And he's gone out and on his own, done a lot to put into the campaign or into that tier to help out that tier, because it's kind of Rick's tier. So shout out to Rick. Dude. You know, I couldn't have done it without him for sure, and everybody else that helped me as well.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, my cover, the wraparound cover. You got the next cover is Shelby's cover, and my cover is colored. It's just when I launched this book, the colors hadn't been done yet, and it was just one of those bad timing things. Like I couldn't get the finished piece yet, so.
Hey,
I had to put up a preview.
Fan, dude. I've always kind of liked black and white, but now I'm just like, I don't know, man. I really like black and white now.
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of black and white. Like the older I've gotten more into the black and whites than ever before.
All the process shit, you know.
Yeah, just like the raw. I love it. Dale Keown cover you can get, which is the thing I like about the Dale Keown cover, again, it's the colored version, but I didn't at the time. I only had the preview of what Dale was working on. But the actual colored version of the book is the first time we got Dale Keown, Chance Wolfe, and Joe Chiodo together on a book since Pitt. And it's an homage to Pitt #1. That's what I really love about that.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
it's so
pretty
cool,
exciting.
black and white, but then it's also like the reunion cover and this simpatico of them, like, the constellations meeting.
Yeah,
So,
and some people might not ever notice that or care, but like I do, and that's cool. That's all that matters. Like to me,
yeah,
it was a big thing. I was like, and I told Dale, I was like, dude, we need to get Chance, we need to get Joe Chido to go in on this cover. And he thought it was a great idea. He was like, yeah, dude. He's like, I haven't talked to those guys in forever. I love those guys. So I hit Chance
that's
up, and he
cool.
was like, dude, I love Dale. I'll do anything that Dale's doing, so count me in. And I
Right.
called I hit up Chiodo, and I told him about the idea, and he was like, oh, absolutely. He's like, I love Dale. He's like, send it over, let's do it. So it was really cool to get
So
those
cool,
three
dude.
guys on board to do that cover.
It's fucking dope.
And then you got the supplemental book, like we were talking before, which has got the 2 10-page backup stories. And then it's got the reprint of the original 2007 preview book that I did that started this whole thing off. Different story, different concept, but it's kind of cool, just history that I put in the supplemental book, so people can kind of look to see where we started and kind of see a different version of the character before I retooled it started retooling it about 2018. And I spent like 3 years retooling the story and redesigning the character and everything before we actually launched it. So be kind of a behind the scenes, look
Love
for
that
everybody.
Love the behind the scenes stuff, man.
Plus, you get to see how I drew in 2007. So
No, that's
you get
cool,
to see
man.
like the
I love that.
maturation in my art process.
No, I'm all about that, man. I'm all about people like, getting, leveling up, as people say, fucking love it. I'm leveling up every year. Like, people around me level up.
Absolutely.
A lot of people in the scene are like my favorite artists. Like Preston Azevedo is one of my favorite artists, dude.
Yeah, hell of an artist.
And it's just like, I don't know, man. I love seeing people, just like, you think they're really good, and then like they get to these like ethereal like levels. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's cool, man. It's cool.
Yep, I love seeing people improve. You can tell when someone's really working on their craft because they'll constantly be getting better.
Oh yeah. That's true, huh? Like pretty quick.
Yeah. So you got, like I said, I'm a big fan of Virgin covers. It hasn't been the most popular tier. I thought more people would be into it for collecting, but it is a tier on there to get the Virgin. No dressing. It's just the art.
Yeah.
So you can get a 2-pack. Yeah, you can get a 2-pack of that. You can get a combination below it of the supplemental and the main cover. If you want, if you haven't backed the campaign yet, and you just want to get them both, you can grab those up for $50. This tier, the triple threat, I think I have all 3 of the covers.
Fuck yeah.
That you can get. The next tier down is the next tier down is just the 2 main covers and then 2 Virgin covers together. You can get original art, where I still have 6 pieces of original art for sale on the campaign. You're guaranteed, anybody that backs that is guaranteed to get inks on the original inks as well, because I had Joe Weems, Matt Bat Banning, Marlo Aquiza, all ink over my original pencils. So I got all those back. Yeah, so anybody who backed that tier is going to guarantee to get one of those pages for sure. And then I've got the original art for the ash can that we were just talking about is up for sale as well. So
you don't want no one to buy that, huh?
I actually don't. No. There's. I actually thought about taking it down a lot of times. I just forget that it's up there.
I know you didn't.
It's something. It's funny too with the original art.
I wouldn't sell either if I were you.
Yeah, it's something I had to really kind of get my arm twisted when it came to the original art, because originally I wasn't going to sell any of the art.
Yeah.
And then I was convinced to do it. And then I was surprised that I was like, it's a funny thing too, because I was like, all right, if I'm going to sell my original art, I'm going to sell it for $1,000 because that's how much the art means to me. Yeah. And not so much how I'm looking to try to get the money for it, So I'm like, if somebody really wants the art, then they can pay for it. No, they'll get it. If not, I'm glad to keep all the art on the campaign. And I was actually shocked that 4 people bought original pieces. I was happy. I was like, cool, that's badass. But I was shocked. So it's a plus for me.
I could almost guarantee that like next campaign, like you could probably bump it up to like $9,000 or $10,000.
That would be insane.
I mean, like it's gonna, it's gonna get there eventually. I know this fucking book's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's hope why, so, man.
People watch it, man. Get in on that fucking that top, that one at the top, man, the top tier.
Yeah, get that Destroyer tier. Yeah,
Get the
it's got
Destroyer
everything in
tier.
the campaign. You
You're gonna
won't
love
be
it.
disappointed. You won't be
Especially if
disappointed.
you're a fucking a '90s kid growing up, man. You're gonna love the stuff and all those covers. Oh man, they could all go in like fucking frames and get in there and get it. Get it while getting is good.
It's gonna be awesome. I think people are gonna love this book. I think people are gonna be surprised when you read the book of just story wise what I'm doing. Because like I said, if it's not a Spawn Darkness ripoff, you know, like there's very much a unique story to it.
I don't feel that way. I don't feel that it is. I like the Reaper story. I feel like a different world even when I'm immersed in it. But it feels cozy. It feels cozy in the '90s. That's how I get out of it, and I like that.
Yeah, and that's I want to appeal to the '90s kids like us, and I want to appeal to modern readers as well that just like cool looking stuff.
Yeah,
like the story is very much I think more of a modern kind of feel of a story than like a '90s feel. Like I love the '90s. '90s were, I mean, there were great stories in the '90s. Don't get me wrong, but there were also a lot of books that were just it was heavy art, and then the story was cool. It was nothing special. It was just cool, but we were buying it for the art anyway. And I wanted to put a lot more thought into the world I was building and the character development, and
there's
specifically
not a lot of that.
Yeah,
and specifically, there's not a lot of like the '90s art with fucking like well written stories. Like there's just not like in that style. Like there's not, dude.
Yep, I agree.
It's fucking dope, man. I have a couple questions to ask you. I know we're going over a little bit, but what's your favorite metal band?
Pantera.
Okay. What's your favorite movie?
Oh man, that's a hard one.
You get to one, then do three.
Okay, 3. Man, that's still hard. Well, probably somewhere on the list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1, the first movie. Was probably one of my favorite movies and probably always will be.
What was the first movie? I'm sorry. I roboted.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay.
The original.
That one's gritty. That one's gritty. It's dope too.
But also, shit. I mean, you could pick so many things from just the '90s that had a big impact on me. It would be
hard. It's hard. I can't have one movie. I gotta have 3. But
anything from the late '80s throughout the '90s through mid '90s were probably big influences on me. Like a lot of Schwarzenegger stuff, Predator, Terminator 2.
Same here, dude. Same here, bro.
I'm sure if I had more time to think about it, I could give you a better answer.
It's hard.
But
no, I always
it's a hard one.
I always come at them, on the side. We'll
go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 though. We'll just throw that one out there, and that'll be the.
I've seen that movie probably a good maybe 30 times, easily 30 times.
Yeah. I'm sure I've seen it 1,000 times.
I got the book for it too. There's a book that came out with it.
I need to get that. I had that when I was a kid.
You know what I'm talking about? The movie book.
Yeah,
I have that.
I had that when I was a kid. I have no idea what happened to it. I would
What's
love
your
to
thought
find
on the Last Ronin? Have you read it yet? I have it, but I haven't read it. I have all fucking
Ronin book 2.
Well, the first one and that one. Fuck it.
I never read the first Ronin.
I got it. I haven't read it. I got all 4 or 5 issues, but I haven't read them yet.
Yeah, so Ronin book 2, which is out now with Philip Tan drawing and Frank Miller doing the writing and the layouts. I haven't read a lot of it, to be honest with you, but I mainly got it for the art, and I thought it was amazing. It was amazing. It's fantastic.
You got a favorite beer?
Not really. I'm not a huge drinker. I socially drink. Probably when I was in the band days, I more just drank to get drunk. So whatever you could find, you would drink.
Right.
Do a lot of shots, do a lot of that kind of. I probably smoke more than I do anything, to be honest with you. So I'm sure if I said a beer, somebody would make fun of me because they'd be like, "Oh, you like the watered down beer?" I'm like,
whatever. Beer, well, I mean, I drink I drink socially, like usually on the live streams just to chill,
Yeah.
Last night I wanted a 40. Like every couple months I'll get a 40 and I'll pound a 40 Mickeys. Get that fucker ice cold and it's piss and sugar. Fuck off, Tonight I got this because I know I had Joe Sontag coming on. I want to chill. I've never had Sailor Jerry's. I figured I'd try Sailor Jerry's.
Actually, I gotta give a shout out to my father-in-law who got me this for Christmas. I still haven't opened it up, Gentleman Jack.
Gentleman?
Yeah.
Oh, that stuff's smooth, man. That stuff's good.
Yeah,
I like bourbon more myself, but I drink rum every now and then too.
It's funny because I did so much drinking when I was in a band that I fucked my shit up. Like I get bad acid reflux now, so it's really hard for me to drink a lot of liquor.
Yeah,
and there's only certain liquors I can drink. Gentleman Jack, and I think the Honey Jack are 2 things I can take shots of without it being really bad for me. Otherwise, I have to like make a mixed drink or something. But Yeah, I did too much, way too much liquor, way too many
I
different
hear you,
shots
man.
and stuff back in the day.
Well, for sure, man. Well, thanks for coming on, Joe. You got to come on again, dude. I'd love to pick your brain some more on a fucking multitude of other things.
Absolutely, man, and we'd love to get you on Ott and stuff again one of these times. I think we've had you on there before, but it's been a long time.
Oh yeah, it's been probably a couple years now. It's
I
just
say it's been too long. Yeah.
fuck yeah, I'd love to come on.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll get it scheduled.
Thanks for coming on again, man. And where can people find you?
Oh yeah, so Joe M Sontag on social media. I'm primarily on X, but you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. You can get a hold of me on any of those platforms. But I'm primarily on X, X Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I have my own YouTube channel under Joe M Sontag. I do 2 shows a week, Appreciating Comic Book Art live on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, where we look at comic books. We do an in-depth
Great show.
Thank you, man.
I recommend. Watch that show.
Yeah, it's my favorite show. It's just doing what we love, right? Just me and my co-hosts Sean, Aaron, and Kayla. We get together and we look at stuff that inspired primarily me because I'm the host of the show, But we look at comics and we look at runs of different artists and we just talk about it. We have a good time. We shoot the shit. It's a fun show. Check it out. And then me and Sean, we do a show called Ott and Stuff on Thursdays at 10, where we do kind of like this, where we'll have guests on, but we just talk about art. We talk about comics. It's a little bit more of a chilled, laid back show, similar to this. Reaper Destroyer, check it out on Indiegogo. That's my book. It's my dream project I'm working on right now. The entire book is drawn, ready to go. We just need to wrap up the colors and get the book lettered. I have to finalize the script, so we are very close to getting that book out. Hopefully in the next couple months that's going out, because I would like to launch the next book in May. So that's kind of my target goal. I think that's it. I think I covered all the bases. I think I've got a website coming here that I'll probably unveil here in a little bit, but I wanted to wait till the book was getting to the fulfillment before I did, because you'll be able to buy some custom stuff, Reaper Destroyer related, Superior Press related, art wise, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna have some stuff on there. Yeah, so that'll be coming down the line as well. So lots of big things this year. So just keep an eye on me, follow me. I'll follow you back. Feel free to DM me. I'm always open to talk to people about the book. If you have questions, yeah, that's it.
Good man. You're a good man. You're a stand-up guy, Joe.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I fucking can't wait for Reaper Destroyer. And man, it's gonna be a fucking badass book. If you guys haven't backed it, you like my show, I guarantee you're gonna love this fucking book. So if you haven't backed it, get in there and back it. And thanks for coming on, Joe, man. I really appreciate it. Again, the link for Reaper Destroyers at the top pinned, and always remember to be bold, be brave, and roll the bones to know your role. I'll see you guys later.
Hey,
bye.